Emin Kim. I'm a reporter for CoinDesk, and I'm here reporting from Devcon 5 in Osaka, Japan. I'm joined by Emin, who is the Associate Professor at Cornell University and the founder and CEO of Ava Labs. Thank you so much for speaking with me and for being here, Emin.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you again, and here at Devcon, there's so many workshops, so many speakers talking about the future of Ethereum 2.0. Which is going to be very different from Ethereum 1.0, proof of work. Given your studies, your academic research, your extensive knowledge and understanding of consensus protocols and of distributed systems, I need to ask you, is proof of stake going to work? Is Ethereum 2.0 a viable system in your understanding?
So let's separate those. Proof of stake is absolutely going to work, and it's going to work much better than proof of work. We know what proof of work can bring us. It gave us the dream. It showed that what one is capable of with a distributed ledger. And so Satoshi showed the world what one could do with a system that's open to participation, with a system that can accommodate small numbers of participants at a modest pace. In fact, at a fairly slow pace. And that pace is nowhere near sufficient for today's DeFi applications. It's nowhere near sufficient for the kinds of use cases that we're beginning to see develop today. We have to go to a better foundation. And the kinds of things you hear about proof of work, how decentralized it is, how open it is, and so forth, are essentially make-believe. It's just theater. If you look at the actual hard numbers, Bitcoin comes down to 19 mining pools. That's the sum total of decentralization in Bitcoin. 19 subpoenas ends what happens. In fact, 3 to 4 phone calls gets you 51%. In Bitcoin's own history, there were multiple episodes where people made those phone calls and rolled back the chain via a soft fork, no matter the kind of fork that was employed. But the bottom line is human coordination was able to change what happened in the financial history of that coin. So that is already a big red flag. These things that people are being sold are essentially dreams, hopes, and mostly narratives. And if you look at the hard numbers, they're not borne out. And if you look at history, they're not borne out. Proof of stake absolutely has the potential to upend this. We're already seeing from the Tezos experiment that people come in hordes, that you have upwards of 70% of the tokens being staked. So POS gives us better security in terms of the amount of capital required to attack the system. It gives us better distribution and better decentralization in terms of numbers of people that are involved firsthand in processing transactions. Now, the second question you asked, though, is different. Where is Ethereum 2.0 going? That's a separate ball of wax. I'm happy to get into that as well.
Before we get into that second question about Ethereum 2.0 specifically, I want to ask you a follow-up question to what you just said. If proof of stake is all these things in terms of being more efficient, in terms of being more decentralized, how come we haven't seen mass adoption of proof of stake in the blockchain or crypto space? Why is Bitcoin dominance so strong and so severe here in crypto land?
Very good question, and there's a very simple answer for this. All of the proof of stake protocols that have been proposed to date rely on the same foundation. And that foundation has until recently been poorly specified, has been very, very short compared to, it has many shortcomings compared to what proof of work gives you out of the box. So we needed more time to actually get our facts straight and get our thinking straight with proof of stake protocols. A naive implementation of a proof of stake protocol circa last year, circa the year before, would have given you absolute crap. And we saw some of those. BitShares, for example, is an excellent example of something that was absolute crap. There are many other protocols like it that really are fundamentally flawed, and we are in fact going to be seeing more of those in the year to come. We're going to see more flawed experiments coming from various different groups that don't know their distributed systems history, that are dusting off old ideas, putting a new veneer on them, and we're going to see them keel over. And in fact, we're beginning to see that with some hints of that with EOS as well. We're already seeing some economic failures in EOS already.
But let's talk a little bit about the third way. The last time that I talked to you, Emin, we were discussing differences between not just proof of work and proof of stake, but a third consensus protocol that is able to iterate upon the flaws that you had mentioned about current proof of stake systems. I'm wondering, in 2020, is there certain unique or competitive features about the Avalanche protocol that Ava Labs is building that shows people proof of stake is not only a more robust and reliable system, but is better than the proof of stake systems already being built upon?
Absolutely. Avalanche is top of its class, and it's going to show the world exactly what the space needs. There are multiple things that we need to do to actually take the space forward. And the very first one is having a high performance, low latency, energy efficient protocol. And Avalanche is all of those things. It's super fast. It achieves finality in about a second. It achieves thousands of transactions per second. It can outdo Visa in a geo-distributed setting. So this was something that many people thought it was not possible. I heard people, in fact, I heard Bitcoin core developers say, look, we will never be competitive with Visa. And they're right. Bitcoin can never compete with Visa, but Avalanche can. And so we're going to show that. But those are just performance improvements. And Ava, the coin, actually brings to the forefront a bunch of new improvements that go far beyond just faster consensus. And the main thing that actually sets Ava apart from every other coin that came before it, all of those 2,000 other coins, is its network model. So all of the existing 2,000 coins have the same model that they inherited from Satoshi. They believe in one coin, one network. They have one coin that they push. You shill your coin every day, and there is one network, which is a set of best effort volunteers who come together to support that coin. And that's all you've got. That is not the Ava vision. In the Ava vision, we have Ava the coin, but we will have thousands of other assets issued on top of the platform. Each and every one of those things comes with its own network that is a subnet within the greater Ava universe. So anyone can define these subnetworks with their own unique characteristics. So you can have a subnetwork, for example, dedicated to smart contracts that require large amounts of space. You can have subnetworks dedicated to smart contracts that demand privacy guarantees. You can have subnetworks dedicated to Americans that obey American compliance rules, or non-Americans that are dedicated to whatever comes with their compliance rules. So, and the sky is the limit in terms of how these subnets can be constructed. But what they give us is the ability to create assets that are compliant. And this is a new feature for the entire space. What this means is we can issue lots and lots of assets on the same platform and trade them with each other to create an internet of assets.
This sounds like a very interesting multiverse of different networks, of different cryptocurrencies, all built upon the Avalanche protocol. And honestly, I've heard so many grand promises in the space. I want to see it to believe it. Right now, I understand that Ava Labs is on a private testnet. When can people expect to see this blockchain in action? Is this going to be a proof of stake network competing with Cardano, Ethereum 2.0 in 2020?
So, good question. Let's just set the context for this. Ava Labs was funded in February 2019. So it's only been 9 months and we're already feature complete. We've had the private test operational since May. So we got to a point where we could run something within the course of 5 months or so. I'm really proud of where we are today, which is very, very close to going public with all of the code and the documentation. We're putting the finishing touches on the documentation. We're almost feature complete with the code base. So we are hoping to go public testnet very, very soon, within the next month or so. And we're also looking forward to going mainnet again very soon, sometime between December to February of the coming months ahead.
That's really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to that. And because you say that it's coming up, the time to go public and to have a mainnet, where do you see different proof of stake networks interacting with the Ava blockchain? Do you see there being room for a network like Ethereum 2.0, for Cardano, for Tezos, EOS, or do you see only one technology, namely Ava blockchain, winning out among the other proof of stake networks?
So it's very commonplace to say that there will be a single winner of them all. If there were to be a single winner, we are the best positioned team to do so because we're actually building an internet of assets as opposed to a closed universe with a single token. But it's my feeling that the winners in this space are not going to be the projects that compete with others. It's going to be the project that draws into the space the assets that are not currently implemented in crypto. There is trillions of dollars on people's balance sheets, on Wall Street's balance sheets to be specific. And in Ava, our goal is to go after that pot of money, not after other crypto assets. Now, we're not going to make $5 by taking it from Bitcoin or Ethereum or anybody else. We're going to make much more than that, I hope, by taking it in from Wall Street people, by digitizing their assets, by fractionalizing their assets, and by giving them abilities that they did not possess, given the existing technology on Wall Street and the existing technology on crypto. We have something that is far beyond both, and I can't wait to show it to the world.
That's interesting. What's the first financial asset you expect to be digitized on the Ava network? I'm curious to know, I mean, if the sky is the limit, obviously there's going to be many different kinds of financial assets over the course of time, but what do you see as the most illiquid, the most in need of a technology like Ava Labs to make the process more efficient?
Let's wait and see. I don't want to reveal. So we're one of the most picked over projects. Just about everything I say or do gets scrutinized, and somebody ends up stealing it. And we already have had people raise $120 million based on the Avalanche idea, and which is 20 times more than what I have raised to date. So my mutterings are worth quite a bit, I take it. And my team gets very upset at me when I reveal our plans. So wait and see. We've got a lot of great things planned, and we're talking constantly to Wall Street. We actually recently opened a headquarters in Williamsburg, just off of Manhattan, and we go in to talk to them, and we have a very good understanding of what kinds of things they need, and we're going to be providing a very different infrastructure to them. But just to give you some context, we, the crypto community, end up running into the same kinds of problems all the time. So especially take the Bitcoiners. There's always a Bitcoin ETF. The Bitcoin ETF people get it ready, they prepare it, they put it in front of the regulators, and the regulators, without exception, always say the same things. Your markets are too manipulated. Your creation of this ETF would not be to the benefit of the public at large. And then that somehow that doesn't sort of sink in, and so they say, well, how about this? And how about I put some more lipstick on my ETF? And the same idea keeps coming up again and again. But what we are capable of with our platform and with the kinds of crypto assets that we're dealing with is way beyond what Wall Street already has. So instead of being at the mercy of regulators who say, your technology, the infrastructure you have, it's not up to our standard. We can go to Wall Street and say, you know what? Your technology is way underneath us. We can provide strong guarantees by construction, correctness by construction, in a way that no other Wall Street entity can. You guys all on Wall Street, you rely on regulation, you rely on audits, and despite that, every 5 years there's a scandal. There's a scandal among market makers, there's a scandal about signaling price increases by using the least digit and so forth. These guys are constantly battling this cat and mouse game, and we can rule them out by construction by using our technology. So I can't wait to show the world what we can do by nature of the crypto assets that we are planning to support.
Well, thank you, Emin. I'm really looking forward to it as well. And just as a final question, more broadly speaking about decentralized finance, as you say, I am curious to know your thoughts on programmatic stablecoins like MakerDAO that has recently risen in popularity. And then we've got lending protocols where people are able to earn interest on their cryptocurrencies and also borrow them for a fee. I mean, it does seem like the decentralized finance space in crypto is already growing bigger and being built on top of Ethereum and other blockchain platforms. Do you foresee that even growing larger in the future? What are your thoughts on the current DeFi applications that are breaking into the space? So
all of the current DeFi applications are essentially computer geeks discovering different forms of debt. And they're wonderful, they're really interesting, and they're nowhere near comprehensive. So we recently wrote a big survey paper on stablecoins of different kinds, and there's the entire gamut from fully backed, fiat-backed coins to programmatic algorithmic coins. And they're very interesting, and there's so many possibilities that haven't been tried yet. So I'm really excited to see this community explore them. There are pitfalls that economists know very, very well, but this community does not have much experience with because of its short history. So programmatic coins can run into spirals. They can have sudden collapses. We've been lucky enough to not have lived through any of those yet, but they can happen. What concerns me a little bit is this community's eagerness to try things before analyzing them. So there's something to be said about going out there and trying things, that's wonderful, but on occasion when you are actually going out to the masses, I think we all ought to sort of demand a higher standard of proof, or at least a better characterization of risk. So programmatic stablecoins are okay, there are many different variants, but I think it's a little foolhardy to push it onto the masses without characterizing their downsides accurately.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. And really, I promise this is the last question because I know you've got to run as well. The other question that I had, just because you brought up traditional economics, is it true that a deflationary currency is less stable than a currency you're able to add a little bit of inflation to over the years? I'm not quite sure about the token economics of the Ava coin, but I have heard arguments that Bitcoin, because there is a set supply of 21 million coins, over time, once the 21 million coins are all mined, it's going to be it's going to be difficult to use it as currency. I'm not sure. Is that true? Is that something that you also see as a flaw among cryptocurrencies, being deflationary?
This is the giant elephant in the room that experts don't really bring up, but is nevertheless there, and everyone knows it's there. So let me put it very simply. The economics of Bitcoin, the incentives of Bitcoin are like a game of chicken. And Bitcoin either gains a price increase that is exponential, that matches the halvings of the Bitcoin production, or else it just falls apart. That is to say, later this year, in about 9 months, we're going to have a halvening. And 4 years after that, we're going to have another one, and so on and so forth. After maybe 2 or 3 halvenings, the number of Bitcoin produced is going to be so small that either the price must go up substantially, or Bitcoin is worth nothing. And so this is really problematic. What we can very well see is the number of Bitcoin produced per block is so small that miners start to take pot shots at exchanges. It becomes profitable for miners to use their rigs to launch double spend attacks. So it is the production schedule of Bitcoin that creates problems, and I fully expect to see miner attacks on Bitcoin once the block rewards start going down. And in fact, I suspect that Bitcoin will change shape quite a bit. It will either issue more coins, breaking the 21 million limit, or else it's going to start using other technologies like a different consensus protocol, such as Avalanche, to secure its ledger. And so these are all in the works, and what most people are trying to do is sell people the dream, not knowing what's going to happen 6 or 10 years from now, hoping that by then they will have figured it out. So that is a looming disaster for Bitcoin's technical incentive structure up ahead.
Because of the fixed supply.
Because of the fixed supply and because of the exponentially decreasing number of coins.
Interesting. Well, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate your answers. I was just thinking of what you were saying, and a lot of these questions I really appreciate.
Let me also say a few other things about this topic. This is an interesting topic that creates a lot of confusion in people's minds. So on the flip side, if I talk to my friends in economics, the people who are experts in econ, they tell us very easily that you want a currency to be slightly inflationary. Otherwise, people hoard it. It's much better for you to hoard or hodl Bitcoin than to spend it right now. That's what everybody tells you as well. So that creates a funny set of dynamics. It's like you've got this coin that everybody's holding, nobody's using, but it only gains its value through use. A coin that nobody uses, it's like the trinkets that my grandmother collects in a shelf in our house. That's they've really got no value, right? It's just they're hodled by her, and people like her, and nobody would dare to dream of replacing the U.S. dollar with grandma's trinkets. So that creates the perverse dynamics for hodled deflationary coins. On the flip side, though, it depends on, so whether or not you want your coin to have a fixed supply or not, depends on how you want it to gather value. You do want some inflation to foster some use. On the other hand, you don't want to have runaway inflation. We have seen many examples of this, where people print money out of the blue, or where people print money in excess of the demand, where the price tanks. So finding that balance is very difficult. And one big problem that current systems have had is that at the time of their creation, the creator wants to make sure that there is no human intervention ever after. So he or she fixes the supply curve for the entire lifetime of the coin. So for Bitcoin, this is fixed, and it was fixed 10 years ago, and it's intransigent. It cannot be changed no matter what happens in the real world. This is a problem, because the world changes. Sometimes you need to mint a little bit more, sometimes you need to mint a little less. And Ava is one of the few coins where those kinds of decisions are in the hands of the stakeholders. So the stakeholders can adjust these accordingly to boost the price when necessary, or to increase the ranks of the stakeholders. So we're very, very proud of this governance scheme we have.
It's hard to predict what the future and how circumstances will change, how dynamics will change. So I guess we'll see quite soon. Bitcoin is about to hit its 18 millionth coin mined, and so it's coming up to that supply.
I don't see any problems coming up at the next halvening, but after that, 4 years from that, we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Well, thank you so much, Emin. It was great to have you.
Okay, thank you very much, Christine.
Thanks, you guys, for listening. We're here at Devcon 5. I'm Christine Kim, and this is Emin.